Nicole had been working on a consent decree for the Baltimore police force with her protege, Ahmed, for the entire season in order to confront a culture of corruption and brutality that had damaged trust between the department and the community it was nominally serving. She didn't arrive naive to the difficult political realities she'd be facing in proposing reforms, such as the hostility of police unions and the rank and file, the budgetary priorities of a cash-strapped city, and the upcoming changes to the Department of Justice under Jeff Sessions, unlike Douglas in Traffic. However, the futility of trying to solve these intractable problems wears her down, and she decides to resign rather than sit on her hands for another 4 to 8 years, depending on how long the Trump administration continues to cripple the civil rights office. As a result, Ahmed becomes a little enraged as she packs away her belongings. Is his advisor going to inform him that what they're doing doesn't matter at the end of their orientation? "I'm saying it's your turn, motherfucker," Nicole says after some thinking. That's a Simonism that can be found in characters on shows like The Wire and miniseries like Generation Kill and Show Me a Hero. What should a moral person do when confronted with an inherently unjust situation, such as the drug war, the Iraq war, or segregated housing in Yonkers? They can put their heads down and execute their work to the best of their abilities with the hope of making a difference on the margins. They may acquire a drinking problem or destroy their relationships along the road, and they will frequently endure disappointments, as Nicole does here, when the system fails them. Others, like Ahmed, will fight hard, but they shouldn't expect anything more than minor triumphs. Suiter chooses a new path. Suiter is forced to confront a past he thought he'd successfully elided when the FBI interviews him about the event in which Jenkins planted drugs in a car after a high-speed chase ended in a tragic crash. Although the FBI does not believe he was the one who planted the bomb, it does need him to testify before a grand jury, and his involvement in the case is likely to cost him his job. Despite the fact that the real-life Suiter's death was officially ruled a homicide, it's unusual to have postscript titles so close to the end of an episode. The show supports the findings of an independent inquiry that says it was a suicide. It's a tragic death on 2 levels. For one thing, it wouldn't happen if Jenkins acknowledged to planting the pills instead of denying it. Which is made much more devious when Jenkins excludes it from his guilty plea after Suiter dies and is unable to defend himself. Suiter is also really remorseful for doing the wrong thing at the time. He didn't follow Jenkins' other recruit, K-Stop, who was gently guided away from the GTTF after rejecting the hypothetical idea of looting suspects. His solution was to remain silent and look for the nearest escape, which was understandable, but not the noblest course of action. To the FBI investigators, the stench of his affiliation with Jenkins seemed to be minimal in comparison to the others who were actively engaging in a criminal plan. Suiter, on the other hand, appears to have decided that he can no longer live with the disgrace. It's just another example of how stealing from ostensibly criminals was not the victimless crime, as GTTF members claimed it to be. There's a lot of preaching in the discourse here, a lot of it funneled directly through Nicole's plotline, because she's the one entrusted with looking at the big picture and dealing with the dysfunction that exists in the department on a daily basis. That is why a character like Commissioner Kevin Davis is such an important part of the story. Delaney Williams' thoughtfulness and shrewdness as Davis has been a continuous surprise. It's not that Davis is virtuous to the point of political recklessness, but he is honest in attempting to achieve progress within the limits of the budget and his precarious job security. It may lead him to make one huge blunder, such as praising the GTTF in the newsletter as an example of high-quality police, but even then, he's attempting to make change pleasant. Jenkins, on the other hand, will be remembered as a rascal, albeit a particularly common one. The pivotal line of conversation occurs in the first scene when he dismisses his counsel and refuses to accept the probable plea bargain on the table. "I'm one of the most talked about, most celebrated officers in the history of this city," he tells the FBI. "Do you think it's strange that I'm suddenly the mastermind behind everything?" He's posing it as a rhetorical question, but the answer is straightforward: no. It's hardly surprising if the most well-known officer of a corrupt department is also a corrupt officer. "We Own This City" believes that it's nearly unavoidable for a plainclothes task force with no accountability and infinite potential for criminal harm. The cycle is restarted when the new commissioner secretly revives plainclothes troops.